Hey, Guru Pashupati, I'm glad to meet you this time.
Same here.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. So I discovered you. It's kind of synchronous how I found you. I was interviewed by my friend Shamim on his podcast, Inner Sanctuary. Afterwards, I decided to scroll through he's interviewed, and I was curious, like, who's the guy who is not wearing a shirt for his podcast? So I watched a few minutes, and then I bookmarked it, and I was like, I'm going to listen to this later. It's interesting. But honestly, I forgot to go back to it. And then separate from that, I'd interviewed Tom Billings from War Yoga. I was inspired to start swimming in the Mace in the club, and I was thinking like I know Hanuman has something to do with this, but I actually don't know anything. I know who Hanuman is, but I don't really know like the connection. I know he holds a Gada. I don't know anything about it. So I went on
Mm.
Instagram, searching, following accounts, and then I came across Hanuman.gada on Instagram, which is the account I think run by your student Kunal. And then I saw
That's
you
it.
there, and I was like, "Oh, it's the same guy who I was going to listen to his interview." And then this was about a week ago. I listened to all of the interviews I could find of you. I was very interested, so I'm very excited to speak to you now.
Great. Let's get started.
Yeah, so there's many things I'm curious about because there's so many things that fascinate me. But one is that actually, unlike many spiritual teachers, you have a martial arts background, which I thought was
Yes.
very interesting. Could you speak a little about that? I know you taught Krav Maga. You have a history of getting into fights as part of your spiritual journey, I think.
Yeah, it was crazy actually. I wasn't even looking for any kind of spiritual training, but I did have a lot of faith in Shiva. And I had a really rough childhood because I grew up in a slum. And on top of that, I had stammering. So I just couldn't speak as fluently as I do now. So I would write notes. I couldn't really speak. So the kids went bonkers. They were just bullying me all the time. And then when I started retaliating by attacking them physically, they beat me up real bad. And then I couldn't even enter my house from the front door. I had to enter through the neighbor's house behind my house, climb over the wall, and get to my house because it was that bad. And one day I decided I'm going to face it. I put up a real brave fight. I've been learning martial arts since the age of 4 because my grandmother was a martial artist, and she taught me some animal movements and things like that, which really saved me.
Which martial arts?
This is
Just
Kalaripayat.
curious.
Kalaripayat was the first martial art that I learned, and it's a very ancient martial art. It was made by somebody called Parshuram, who's an avatar of Vishnu, and it has a lot of really good movements. But my grandmother refused to teach me the real hardcore stuff till I was older. So she would only make me do the exercises. So I still didn't know how to fight. And when I tried whatever, I tried being the lion, I tried being the wild boar, I tried being all of these animals that she was making me practice. It didn't work against 10 people. So then I got bashed up real bad, and they smeared my face with cow dung and made me sit in a gutter. And that's when I met my guru, because I really was pissed off with Shiva. I said, "You can't let this happen to me. Like, what's going to happen if you let this happen to me, who believes in you so much? Then people are going to lose faith in you," is what I told him. And then, sure enough, there was this guru of mine materialized out of nowhere, and he told me, "I'll teach you how to fight," because that's when it wasn't easy. He used to he used to ask me to come to his place at 5 in the morning and train, and make me do all sorts of weird stuff, like training with rocks and things like that. I didn't really understand why I should do it, but I just did it until it came to a stage where he said, "Now you're ready to fight. You're going to learn fighting." I was very excited. So, what are we going to do? So, you're going to go to this person. I'll take you. He took me to the railway station, and he pointed to a bunch of young people there, and he said, "You go to that guy and you spit on his face because you can't speak."
Hmm.
First, he told me to go and say some abuses to him. I said, "Look, I can't speak." I wrote that. He said, "Yeah, yeah, you can't speak. So you go and spit on his face." And that's what I did. And then, of course, they beat me up. And I was surprised that I could pluck his roots out, because he was making me practice pluck weeds out with my arms, pluck it out, pluck it out, pluck it out. And he said, human beings are like that too. You pluck their root, they can't fight. So, and you're short, you can do it. And I was really short. I was 4 feet and 6 inches. So I plucked his root out, and he fell on the floor and crashed his head. And his friends got really mad, and one of them pulled a knife out. And I didn't have any lessons to deal with the knife, so I started running. And he managed to slash my calf muscle because as I ran through him and I plucked his root too.
So
So
by pluck his root, it's kind of like an ankle pick in
it's an
wrestling.
ankle
Like
pick.
he,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Something like an ankle pick, which is all I could pick. But later I learned you can pluck someone's root even with their arm. You can pluck someone's root even with their neck or anything because it's all connected. So I just kept plucking his root out and I kept running because that's the only thing I knew. I got slashed on my calf, and it's the only knife scar that I have. And later, then he said, "Why didn't you check if whether he has a knife?" I said, "What? How?" And then he taught me how to check people to see if they have knives. And so before I would spit on them, I started checking if they have a knife, and then I'd spit on them. And so I would take out the knives from them. I fought 300 people like this, and I found around 60 knives, which is crazy. The number of people who used to carry knives back in the day when I was a kid.
And how
So
old were you at this time?
I was 12. So yeah, I mean, but I got really strong with all the training. There's one training exercise where he asked me to go to the neighbor's house. I mean, one of the neighbors, they had a cricket setup, so they had wickets. He said, "We need that wicket. Go and steal it." I'm like, "What? They have a dog." And he said, "I don't care. Go and steal it." So, well, I gave some food to the dog. The dog was eating the food, and I stole the wicket early in the morning before anyone was up. And the dog knew me because it's my friend. We used to play cricket together. So I stole that wicket, and then he made me tie a rope to it, and then he tied that to a stone, a big rock actually, and I had to do this with the wicket and roll the rope up the stone, and then roll it back. It was really painful for my shoulders and my wrists, but they got like really strong doing that, so I could throw a punch with a lot of power after that. And he trained me for some time like this. It took me a year, and then he just vanished. And I'm like, whoa, what was that? And now I have this ability to fight, and I don't know what to do with it. So I did a lot of wrong things with it. I was even recruited by the mafia. I started working for the mafia when I was 13. And later, my aunt, who was a cop, found that out, and then she told my dad, and then my dad moved out from that place where we were living because he started to do a little better. He was now a professor, so he could afford to move to another place. So we just moved to another place, and then I got dissociated with the mafia, which is a good thing. And then I tried to continue my studies, but it was just not possible. So I became an entrepreneur at the age of 13, and that worked out really well because by the time I was 18, I was just rolling in money, and by the time I got married when I was 23, and my guru showed up once when I was 18, because I was practicing yoga by myself, no guru, right? So I was practicing by myself, and I managed to hold my breath to 8 minutes. And I said, "What will happen if I hold it a minute more and resist this reflex?" And I found myself out of body then, and that's when he showed up again. He came and rang the bell, and I didn't want to get back into my body because it was so blissful to be out of body and not have the weight of this body. I didn't have any body. I was looking for my body, but I couldn't. I was just a consciousness. So when I got back in, when he rang the bell, and I was like, "No, I don't want to be in that body. It's going to be painful." And it was very painful because this body hadn't breathed for some time. So I was panting, puffing, trying to get the color of my nails back to pink because they'd all turned bluish. And with all that, I walked out because I was curious to see who rang the bell. My dad had opened the door, and there was this guru again. And he was like, "I'm going to come back for you later, but don't practice yoga on your own." And boom, he went.
And
So I said, "Okay."
it was the same man from
No,
when
he
you were
didn't look the
12.
same anymore. He looked like much taller, glowing, I didn't know it was the same person. I thought it was someone else. And then he
So
gave me
actually,
a Rudraksh.
sorry, this might be like a dumb question, but just to understand, like, uh,
Mm.
you could recognize it was
I
the
couldn't.
same. No, you
I
couldn't.
couldn't. I found out later, much later, when he told me that it was him all along.
Okay.
When he came to me as an assassin the first time. And he said, "I'm an assassin. I've killed some people in Meghalaya, which is one of the northeast states of India, and I'm hiding out here in Bangalore. So when I'm here, I'm going to teach you, and I'm going to leave." And then he taught me all of the stuff that assassins know, and then he left. And then the second time around, he came like a sadhu, but this was his actual form, and he was like. Very tall, very radiant, and very beautiful. And I just wanted to keep looking at him because I've never seen another human being so happy. And that's when I said, wow, he has the weight of nothing in his eyes, just nothing. And I said, I want to be like that. And when he said, don't practice yoga anymore, I said, okay. Because my dad was practicing yoga on his own and he wasn't getting anywhere either. But I had access to all his books. So I was reading it and I was practicing yoga like a professor would. And it really didn't, it wasn't good for me. So I stopped. And then I focused on being an entrepreneur. And then I got married when I was 23. And I kept learning martial arts all through because it's been a passion of mine since I was young. I've learned about 50 martial arts. And I have teachers' degrees or certificates in all of them, including Krav Maga. I got my certificate pretty easy. And they let me to teach in Goa. So I was doing that. I trained the Navy commandos. I trained the Karnataka police, which is my state, and the police of the neighboring state, Tamil Nadu. So this is what I've been doing. And so I learned a lot of different views about martial arts. I was able to take the best of the best, and I still practice. And I even practiced this morning before I came to meet you.
So how did this lead you? Or I mean, actually, I still want to understand. Like, your guru came in a different form.
Yeah,
Could you maybe explain that for?
for a Westerner.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, because even me, like, I've read a lot of spiritual text. But I've always taken these kinds of stories as metaphors.
No, they're not
So
metaphors. People can actually change form and shape shift, and I've seen it happen in front of my eyes, and it's happened to me too. I've changed form so many times. It happens. It happens when you have the grace of Devi. Devi is the feminine force that runs this world, and it's out of her womb that we come. And when we please her, she lets us do all sorts of funny things. It's just that there's no technique and there's no science behind it. Because if people are going to find the science of transformation, they'll have to understand Devi, which is very difficult to understand. But it's easy to please her. She gets pleased very easily. When you come up with a story in your life that is so outrageous, and you get into problems that are so outrageous that only she can help you, which is what I've been doing my entire life.
mhm.
So these kind of things do happen. It's how much you've surrendered to the divine, and that's
Okay.
really how it works.
Because actually, I mean, from the little I understand as of listening to you speak over the last
Mm.
week and reading, one of the things that really is interesting about Hanuman is the life as a game concept or the playfulness idea, which has been a view that I've really appreciated and sometimes embodied in my life. But I have noticed actually the last couple of years I've become very serious about my life. I think it's because I became a father. And in listening to you speak about Hanuman, I was like, oh yeah, I used to view the world more like that, and I was more happy. So maybe this is something I should adopt. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Well, to be happy, you need to be secure. If you're not secure, then you can't be happy. Because if you feel there are things out there that can harm you, then how can you be happy? You just can't. So that's the most important thing, to find security in the divine, not in your physical actions. There's nothing much that I can do. A lot of people come to me with a lot of problems. I don't know how to solve them. I have no idea. I say, okay, great, you do this kriya and it's going to work. And then they do it and it works. Because I don't know where that's coming from. So there's a part of us that's far beyond and far bigger than everything that we've been told that we are. There's a story that we've made about who we are that is absolutely not powerful and very weak. And when we start believing in that story, we obviously can't be playful. We can't play around. We think, oh, there's no room for mistakes now that I'm a father, you know. And then you just can't make any mistakes, and you're like, wow, I got it. You get stressed out because you try to control everything. But really, the one who throws all control to the winds and says, listen, if you want to keep me alive, you keep me alive. I'm going to do this. Okay, Devi. And then I just go and do it. And then if she wants to keep me alive, she keeps me alive. If she wants to fuck me up, she will. And she does also frequently, which is okay.
Hmm.
So it's all about faith, Jesus said that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. Well, I said I want to find out. No, mustard seed, that's not so hard. I think I can manage that. And so I said, okay, I can do more than a mustard seed. A whole bunch of mustard, 100 grams of mustard is what I can do, and that was enough.
Yeah, because on that, I think for most people, and I'm speaking for myself, but I think this is true of everyone uh, who hasn't achieved that mindset. The thing that prevents playfulness or faith or trust is money, is survival. It's the idea that if I don't do this sequence of things or follow this sequence of steps, I'll be out of money. And actually,
I
I think in
understood
one of
this when I was a kid. I understood this when I was a kid. Money is not that hard. Okay,
Mhm,
money is just gratitude in physical form.
mhm,
That's what you need to understand. So, if you can have people grateful to you, all you have to do is make them an offer and it converts into money. But you need to get them grateful to you in advance.
mhm,
And you are doing it. You're doing your podcast. You're trying to give people something to be grateful about, but you're doing it unconsciously. If you say, I truly want to give them something that they're going to be very grateful about, and then you start putting out things that are beautifully useful to people, and they'll be so grateful that when you make an offer, they'll buy it. And that's really the secret of money. It's not that hard.
Yeah, because I heard you speaking in one of your interviews on dream, like something about like dreaming consciously, or and you mentioned money specifically, like as the first thing. It's like a thing you can. I forget exactly the words you said, but it was like, oh, okay. It's nice to hear someone speak about money from a spiritual lens as well, because that is the thing that maybe binds people to the fears of the
Like
money.
people don't know where money comes from. You know where it comes from? It comes from other people's bank accounts. That means if other people are grateful to you, that's when they take money out of their bank account and put it in your bank account. Because
Hmm.
that's where money comes from. But we are in what is called a debt economy, an economy of debt. And that's really how it is. That's how money was made, by borrowing. There's a book called Debt, you should read it. Okay?
Hmm.
So money was made by just borrowing, and you come up with a project that you say is viable, and people pay you money and trust you. So there are things like gratitude and trust that are the core basis of money. If we don't understand these two things, gratitude and trust, we can't make money sustainably. Then all we do is we become a human resource working in a company, and that kills us. It kills us because they say you're a human resource. They take you to the human resources department and they give you an appointment from the human resources department. You read all that and you expect to be treated better than a human resource inside a company. That doesn't work. That's just factory working. So earlier we had peasants, then we had factory workers, and now we've got corporate employees. It's the same thing. They don't have autonomy. They can't decide to go fishing with their kid if they want to in the morning. They just can't because you got to go to work to make money. So selling your time for money is a really bad idea. What you should do is get people grateful and to trust you. If people are grateful and they trust you, you'll never have a problem with money. Because then you have to care about other people. You have to say, what do they exactly need? Why are they suffering? Can I help them? And then you help them. And you'll be surprised. You'll be rich in no time.
So I want to ask you more about Hanuman Gada specifically, because I honestly still don't quite understand the spiritual aspect of the physical practice. I've read a bit. I mean, I actually I started speaking to Kunal, your student, about your program. I'm very interested in it, but I still don't really get it. Like how does one develop themselves internally through this physical practice?
So you'll have to understand who Hanuman is. He's a servant of Sri Ram. It's a model for us to be. It's like a model that we can fit into, because we all learn by stories since we're kids. We just hear a story and then we think this story is good and I want to be this. Depends on the story the kid's heard. That if you ask him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" which all the adults do most of the time, and then the kid is like, he's saying the latest thing that sounds amazing for him,
Mhm.
right? And that never stops. As we get older, we're like, I want to be the most amazing thing possible, as long as we listen to stories, but we stop listening to stories. But fortunately, in India, we're awash with stories since the day we're born. And one of the stories that catches the imagination of children here is the story of Hanuman. How did he become so powerful? How did he leap over the sea to rescue Sita? How did he jump back to the mainland, go to the Himalayas, pick up a mountain? Pick up a mountain. I can't even pick up a tree. He picks up a mountain and then lands back in Sri Lanka when Lakshman was shot or whatever. When you hear these stories of valor, you just want to be like them. So it's similar to the Vikings. They heard stories of the Norse gods, and then they said, "I want to be like Thor." It's the same thing. Like in India, we want to be like Hanuman. So when you have that kind of a model, and then you train with the ancient methods, you start becoming like that. Recently, I could move a tree. Like I went to the forest, and on the way back, there's a neem tree that's fallen right across the road, and it was really big and heavy. But I don't know what overconfidence I've developed because of practicing Hanuman Gada. So I climbed over the tree, which was pretty massive, and I reached to the other side and I found its trunk, and I started pulling the trunk, and I could move the tree. But unfortunately for me, the branches were too elastic, and it kept getting lodged in various other things, and I just couldn't move it. And I had to find an alternative way out of the forest. But still, I was amazed, and my students were amazed that I could drag such a big tree. And this happened once. I picked my car out of a ditch, just thinking of Hanuman. I said, "Hey, Hanuman, you got to help me now," and I did it. So many times, there've been times when there's been so much violence in my life that I've just called upon Ma Kali and said, "No, you got to protect me because of this." The first day I went to college, my father said, "You cannot beat anyone in college, because if you beat up anyone in college, then I'm not going to let you be in the house," or something like that. I didn't need it because that time I was already rolling in money. um, I had discontinued my education by just going to school, giving my attendance, and then running away to do work. I used to work for people until I realized being an entrepreneur makes more sense. I really didn't need the college, but my father insisted that you have to have an education. And he said, it's not going to reflect well on me. I'm a PhD. So I said, oh, wow, okay. I'll just go because it's fun to be with other people my age. And that's why I went. And the very first day, there was a guy who walked into the class and he started like molesting a girl out there. And I didn't have to think twice. I just got up and I bashed him in the face. I said, Jai Hanuman, and boom, the guy passed out. And I told his other two friends to carry his senseless body out. And they said, we'll be back. And they were back. They were back with 30 people with weapons and all sorts of stuff. And they were really planning to kill me. I escaped even that by just praying to the Divine Mother. I said, I've gotten into this big soup now, so only you can protect me. Okay, if I have to be alive, well, I'll see you in my intact body. If you want to kill me, then I'll see you across the river. We believe there's a river that flows between the living and the dead. It's called Vaitharni. So I said, I'll see you across the Vaitharni river, and I said, okay. Like I think the Vikings call it Valhalla. I'm not sure, but it's there. And we're like, yeah, no, Valhalla is their heaven. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go there, right? So I told her, see you in heaven if I die, and see you on earth if I live. And I fought. and I fought my way out of there, damaging those guys really badly. I got into a bus, and then I had to go back and sort it out, because then I got in touch with a militant organization. I made them help me, and you know it's ridiculous solutions. But I brought peace in there, and nobody dared misbehave with the girls again, because I was militant about it, and I still am. I'm still militant about why people are so atheistic and why can't they just like trust God. So I'm helping people to learn that.
So on that, actually, I wanted to ask you about agora because I didn't know this term until I heard you speak about it. Because yeah, there's so much violence in your story towards I don't know what you'd say like bliss or spiritual or I don't know if you use the word enlightenment, but could you explain what that is and actually the perspective and the path of an agori?
The Gora is basically violence. Okay, Agora means non-violence, like complete non-violence. So Gora is ferocious violence, whereas Himsa is torture. So Ahimsa is non-torture. It's been translated as non-violence, which is wrong. Agora is non-violence. But if you want to be non-violent, then you have to have the capacity for violence. Because what's the point otherwise? How do you tell yourself apart from a coward and someone who's non-violent? What's the difference? You know. So to be truly non-violent, you need to practice a lot of violence. And Aghora is the worship of deities who are non-violent, but only because they have the capacity to kill you. So these are the deities that mainstream Hinduism veers away from. They're like, yeah, 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 we respect you, but from afar. They don't really get into it.
Like Kali,
So,
for instance, or
like Kali, Tara, Smashantara, and then there's Bhairav. These are deities that we worship, and all of the deities are there in their Aghora forms as well. There is Aghora Hanuman as well. So these are like really violent deities. Aghora Ganesha also exists, and the main deity we worship is Kal Bhairav, who is a non-violent form of Shiva, but he's non-violent because he's got the capacity for violence. You know how after India and Pakistan got nuclear weapons, now we're not violent to each other that much. It's come down a lot because we got nuclear weapons. So we don't want to start a war because that would mean obliteration of the whole country. Because when we have the capacity for violence, that's when violence is possible. When the one person that has the capacity for violence and the other doesn't, then they will use that capacity for violence to dominate the other person, which is what you see in the rest of the world, which is struggling with war. There's one side that is unfairly that feels they have an unfair advantage, which is where they go and start dominating people. And it's the same with people. It's about power, right? If both people in a relationship have power, then it will be a non-violent relationship. But if the power is lopsided, then the powerful one always takes advantage. It doesn't speak much about our species, but that's how we are.
yeah, I remember another talk you gave. We were speaking about justice, and I don't know if this is what you were actually getting at, but on something on how nature is just. You didn't mention power, I think, in that talk, but what I
No,
heard was
power is
like,
very important for justice. Power is justice is the privilege of the powerful. You can't be not powerful and then expect justice. It doesn't work that way. But a lot of people who feel that the world is unfair are the ones who don't have power. Because they don't have power. They haven't really trained. Power comes from training. Power comes from knowledge. Knowledge and training gives you power. Just knowledge, no power. Just training, no power. But power plus knowledge plus training gives you power. And people are either too lazy to train or they think they know too much already without knowing. So they're not powerful.
yeah. So curious, what do you think of people who go on like a more ascetic path where they don't train their body or they, I mean, I'm sure that's actually more common when people think of spirituality. What do you think of that?
Yeah, some powerless old man. I don't think that I want to be that. I don't think it makes any sense at all. I don't see why I should do that. Because that spirituality is all about you. It's me, myself. It's me, my enlightenment, my nirvana, my moksha, my mukti, and that's how you are. You don't want to take the others along with you, you know. When I was a kid, the highest thing that they taught me, the highest thing that I can do in school is to get the first rank. to stand first on top of the class by trampling on all my classmates. That's what we teach children. It's a ridiculous lesson. That's not what I did. I got the question papers by making friends with the attenders in the college, in the school. I made copies of it and I gave it to all my friends. So we all did well because we knew what questions were coming. We learned only that much. And we did really well in the exam. And the school was so pleased that they raised their fees. They thought we got 100% results, we can charge more now. But it didn't happen the next year because I wasn't there. So, you know, I think we should take everyone along. Why the hell are we only thinking about ourselves? Just because school told you to do that?
And how
I
does
take
power
everyone
fit
along.
into that?
Hmm?
How does
How does
power
power
fit
fit into
into that?
that?
Yeah.
Power is the respect given to you by people or a gratitude. It's just like money. You know, money is power, right? It's the same thing. Power is the gratitude of people. If you don't have that, you lose power.
I also wanted to ask you about brahmacharya.
Hmm.
So I heard you mention brahmacharya. It's not no fap. A lot of and for those who don't know the term, it's about conserving your energy. I think specifically about a man conserving his seed.
It's about continence. You're right. It's not about celibacy. People translate brahmacharya as celibacy. Brahmacharya means to walk the path of the creator. Brahma is the creator. Charya is the path. To walk the path of the creator, to be able to create your own reality. That's what brahmacharya is. It's a very powerful practice. Hanuman is one of the foremost brahmacharis. Brahmacharis are not asexual. They're not celibate. They do indulge in sex and they do indulge in masturbation, but they do not indulge in ejaculation or wasting of the sexual energy. They take that sexual energy which gets produced when you orgasm and they store it back in their brain from the lower organs all the way up to the brain by using their breath. They pull it up. So every time you have sex or every time you masturbate without ejaculating, even the sex is without ejaculating. And then you can go on for hours and have multiple orgasms. Like the average guy lasts about 5 minutes in bed when he actually starts penetration. But a brahmachari can go on for hours and have multiple orgasms and then store all of that energy again. And then we use that to create. We use this orgasmic energy to have a vision and to create something. And you can do it with a partner or you can do it alone. And that's an involved practice which you and your partner have to take seriously because only then you can create your life where you have the luxury of money and time. When you have the luxury of money and time, that's when you can learn new things, like yoga, for example. A lot of people want to learn yoga from me, but what they want is relief. And I tell them, look, you want relief? I've put it all up for free on YouTube. Go and get relieved. And once you're relieved, then you come. Relieved of your responsibilities, relieved of not having time and money. That's when I can really teach you yoga. And I put them through a course which is a challenge. If they pass the challenge and come out on the other side of the challenge, I can turn them into a yoga guru, which is what I'm doing. I've got
Hmm.
200 people I'm training right now to become teachers like me.
So actually, before I even ask you about the specifics, so kind of your path, would you say it's a left-handed path, so to speak, because it doesn't shy away from
I
sex
don't
and
know. Do you
violence?
see any bird with only one a left wing or only a right wing? It needs both the wings to fly, right?
Hmm.
That's really what the left and right are. The two wings, you need to flap them both, otherwise you don't fly. People are saying I'm the right-handed path. They just they can't fly,
Hmm.
and people say I'm only doing the left-handed. Where are you going with one wing?
Hmm.
The two wings of the same bird. It's Vama and Dakshina. Vama is the left, Dakshina is the right.
Hmm.
And both of these parts are important. If you do only Vama, you'll develop power in a very short while and you won't have the ethics to use it properly. If you do only Dakshina, you'll have only the ethics and you won't have power. You need both.
Can you speak a little bit about what the training is like then? Is it
The
focused on
training is
yoga?
with the Gada, you're asking? Because those are two different courses. I've got
Okay.
one which we teach Gada, and it's for people who can live an outdoor lifestyle. We insist on this. We insist that you go barefoot out on the ground, stand in the sun, and practice Gada. I don't care where you are. If you're in the snow, you do it in the snow. But of course, you don't have to be barefoot in the snow, but you have to be outdoors. Okay, so even when I was in the mountains with knee deep snow, I would practice barefoot outdoors. Because all of the animals there are barefoot. Why should I wear anything? And I'm always bare-bodied, barefoot, just like an animal. Because that's when the animal is plugged into the matrix, the energy from the ground and the energy from the sky. And that's what it is. Even the Chinese agree that the human is a bridge between the earth and sky. So we have to understand that's something to do with. I mean, now they're finding out with quantum biology that the spiritualists were right all along about this. And then you have the work of Dr. Jack Kruse, which was very crucial for people to understand the root of all the stuff called lifestyle diseases, because it is indeed your lifestyle that causes diabetes, cancer, and all of those things that people are reeling under now, heart attacks and cardiovascular disease and all that kind of stuff. And people in India, we are the diabetes capital of the world, and we really need a big dose of nature if we want to improve. So the Hanuman Gada is for that. When on the level one, we just want you to make a habit of getting out in nature. I saw some of your videos; you do get a lot in nature, so that's great. So you can do it. You can do Hanuman Gada. So now we're using the Hanuman Gada, which is actually a Vajra, which means like we treat it like a bolt of lightning. That's what it is. We treat it like an electrical charge, and then we use that gada to build the electrical charge in our body. It builds astonishing strength, astonishing power, and astonishing compassion, and the will to live a life which is of service. That's really what it is. That's what Hanuman Gada is all about. But the yoga is about uh, finding both mobility and stability in your mind. For those who can't even do the outdoor thing, I tell them you start with yoga, because your mind is like, it has joints too, okay, and at the joints there's movement. There's a lot of movement at the joint, but there's this part which is not moving. This is this is like stability. It's giving stability. So right here you have stabilizing muscles and you have moving muscles. The joints are the chakras. Okay, the whole Western world is focused on the chakras because that's where the mind moves. But where the mind is supposed to hold still, they don't know anything about it. It's called adhara. Nobody taught them. A lot of Indian gurus who were really kicked out by their gurus here went to the West and started teaching. And what do they know? Nothing. So the West knows nothing about yoga, really nothing. Nobody knows what adhara is. But adhara is what gives you stability. So I make people practice asana so that they can get stability of the mind by focus on the adhara. And then I train them how to move the chakras. So then their consciousness becomes something that they can control. And we have three states of consciousness. That's what is represented by this Trishul 1, 2, 3. Three states of consciousness. The middle one is called dream. This is the dream, swapna. The one on this side, the one on the left, is called wakefulness, and the one on the right is called imagination, which is very different from a dream. And in your imagination, it's like a screen, It's like what these NLP people do, like they look at screens all the time. It's imagination. If you imagine an elephant is running at you, you won't run. But if you dream an elephant is running at you, it's suddenly real for you. It seems like it's real, and then you want to run. But then when you wake up, you realize it was not real. Okay? It wasn't this reality, it was another reality. So we consider both the waking consciousness and the dream consciousness as reality, and we can merge these two realities together to create a hybrid of wakefulness and dreaming when we are not asleep. And if you're able to do that, you reach the fourth stage of consciousness called Turiya, which is a blending of dream and reality. Okay? So now the dream is coming in whenever your reality falls low, your dream is lifting your mind. And then, whenever your waking reality goes high, then dreams lifting you even higher. So then your baseline of happiness always remains. No matter what is going on in your life, you remain happy because you know how to dream yourself out of it. You can dream yourself out of your unhappiness. So that's what I teach in my 64-day challenge. And when people are able to fulfill that, then I tell them, listen, it's time to earn gratitude and be a millionaire. Be a spiritual millionaire, not just a millionaire. Okay, it's easy to make money even if you don't have gratitude by just perception. It's a game of perception. You hear marketing people talk about perceived value rather than value. I say if you give value, people are going to perceive it. Why do you have talk about perceived value? So that's why there's a lot that's fake in the business world. There's a lot that's fake in the political world. There's a lot that's fake in society. And then we have taken all that fakeness into ourselves because then we're out of touch with reality. We're out of touch with our dream reality. We're out of touch with our waking reality. And then we try to manage with just our imagination. It doesn't work. So most people have an imaginary relationship where they're in love, but they're not really in love. They have an imaginary job where they have security, but they don't really have security. And so people live in their imaginary world and they become so unhappy and stressed, and then they die of the unhappiness and stress.
So when you're speaking about imagination, I guess another way to put it is you're speaking about like the false perceptions, false abstract ways that people get upset. I mean, it makes me think of people watch the news about something happening in the other part of the world,
Yeah,
and
that's imagination.
filtered, yeah, filtered in a political way to make them upset, to get them to
Yeah.
watch the next
Do you know
video.
how upset people got when they heard Corona can kill them? They went and got needles. They allowed something to be injected into them without even understanding what it is. They just said, "Yeah, let's do it." I understand
And some other
vaccines.
people made a lot of money from that fear.
Yeah, all fear is imagined. Fear is imagination. There's no, there's no fear in reality because you don't have time to be afraid. There's no freeze response in reality. You know, freeze response is something which is a last resort. When a bear comes to
What
you,
do you
it's
mean?
freeze. You know. Okay, we got three responses which are sympathetic responses: fear, fight, and flight. These are your three responses. Okay. I mean, sorry,
Fight,
fight,
flight,
flight,
and
and
freeze.
freeze. Yes, yeah, I'm sorry. So that's what your sympathetic nervous system does. But do you know what a freeze response is? It's actually cell apoptosis. It makes you smell like you're dead. It decays you by actually killing a part of you so that you smell like you're dead. So when an animal comes to you, you pretend to be dead, it sniffs you, it gets the stench of death, and it says, okay, this one's dead, and it moves on. It does not attack you because it does not see you as a threat anymore. So that's what lizards do when they notice you noticing them, they just freeze. They are creating death inside themselves. Okay? Which is what everyone who freezes does. They're creating death inside themselves. They're killing a part of their cells. But the fight response is very different. You get motivated, and you can get motivated in a sustained way if you got your fight response right, or even your flight response. You can escape from somewhere, and you can escape from stupidity in a sustainable way. Okay, so it's not all bad, but only the freeze response is bad. Fight and flight is good. People are like, I'm angry. I'm like, that's good. Do something with it. And people are like, I'm ashamed. I'm like, that's fantastic. Do something with it. You know. But we're trying to suppress anger. We're trying to suppress shame, and it's a wrong thing to do because these two emotions are very powerful. If you allow yourself to feel it, you'll do something. You'll store all that energy and then you'll release it very slowly and make sure that things get done. So I'm always angry and I'm always ashamed of what we've made of ourselves. But that doesn't stop me from being happy because I know that I'm on my path to fixing it all.
Can you go back to the dream bit? Because so we understand the imagination piece. Can you speak more on, because
Now
it
in a
sounds like
dream,
almost like lucid dreaming, but in life.
yes, yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
It is lucid dreaming when you're awake, right? Because when I was pulling the tree, when I was lifting the tree, I felt Hanuman's hand is under the tree. I dreamt it. That allowed me to be more powerful. There's a video of me. The road outside my house is a slope, and there's a video of my student trying to push a car up the slope, and there's me pushing the car up the slope. When I do it, I dream of Hanuman's hand helping me push it. Okay, so that's just the physical part of it. So If I want money, then I dream of Lakshmi pouring money into my house, and it happens because it gives me a lift. Because when I look at the reality, maybe there's no money in my bank account. When I look at the reality, my biceps are about 15, 16 inches. I don't know how much. It's not enough to push a car or lift a tree. It's just not enough. Okay. So where you find yourself lacking in reality, you need to supplement by dreaming. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And the dream helps you lift things that you can't lift. You understand?
I think so. Would you? And I don't mean to make this comparison in a like a negative way, but
I mean,
it's kind of
just do
like
this,
what
okay?
love.
Just do this. Light a candle, put your finger in it. It's going to burn, and count how many seconds you can keep it in. All right. Now take another finger because this one's already burnt. Take another finger and imagine this finger is made of ice. Just dream, not imagine. You have to dream it. You have to touch yourself and feel cold. You're like, oh, so cold. And put this other finger into the flame, and then you can definitely keep it for twice as long without burning it.
Mhm.
A lot of people in the West, you just call it mind over matter,
Their self hypnosis, or some
but
people
we
call
call
it
it the
law
fourth
of
stage of
attraction.
consciousness. We call it the fourth
Okay.
stage of consciousness.
Okay. Uh, I think I understand. I also want to go. You mentioned many interesting things earlier that I want to go back to, such as your lifestyle. So, for instance, like I'm actually up much later at night than I'm normally awake because I try to also live with the sun.
Yeah,
Although,
thanks for doing that, man. Thanks.
yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you don't have artificial lights, and I do. So that was the
Yeah,
that
yeah.
was the
I just
joke.
don't have. There are no
Can
lights in
you
my house.
can you kind of describe what your lifestyle is like? Like you wake up with the sun, go to sleep with the
I
sun.
wake up much before the sun. I wake up around 3:30 in the morning, and then I practice yoga till the sun comes up. I continue practicing yoga for another hour after that, and then usually I'm out by 7. I get out. I'm always outdoors. If I can't go to the forest, I go nearby where there are a lot of trees. But most of the time, I like to be in the forest. And then I of course eat as soon as I wake up. I eat a big fat slice of fish because that gives me DHA for my brain. It gives me protein, and it really breaks my fast because I don't eat after sunset. I usually have another meal later around 4:30 in the evening, and that's it. From 4:30 to around 6 in the morning, I'm fasted. So that's more than 12 hours. It's about 13 and a half hours of intermittent fasting every day. And I do a lot of swimming. I go to the river and swim a lot because that really helps. All of these natural things is what I need to I do, and so I don't take supplements. I don't take medicines. If I'm sick, I let nature cure me. And I do the opposite of what doctors ask you to do most of the time.
Hmm. And the type of yoga you're doing, it sounds like it's like 3, 4 hours. It's not the type of yoga you would see in a Western yoga studio.
No, no, no. It's meditation. It's a lot of meditation. It's also a lot of there's a lot of mystical stuff, man. Like speaking to deities, winning their favor, having little miracles occur all around you. Um, the reality and dream has blended so well in my life that it's always in the blended state. I don't have a waking reality and I don't have a dream reality separately. It's just one reality.
Hmm. So, what are your dreams like?
At night, I don't really dream that much, but if I do, it's like a lucid dream. I'm always awake in the dream, and it's mostly about teaching. I
Hmm.
just dream of teaching so that I can get people into a good state of mind, be happy, live long, become immortal.
Hmm.
That's what I dream of.
Hmm.
I dream of immortality and teaching it.
Hmm. Yeah, and speaking of actually, the next thing I was going to ask you is about energy. You're mentioning energy cultivation, or the human being the. I forget
Yeah.
exactly what you said. Yeah, could you speak on that,
Yeah,
like cultivating
recently,
energy? Or,
recently they did a test with these energy healers, who send
hmm.
energy through their palms. They took breast cancer cells in a petri dish and then they sent energy to it and it receded. The cells became normal again. They didn't have cancer anymore. They stopped the cancer gene expression. We are far more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, because we haven't tapped into the world of energy. And the world of energy is your charisma. You know, we have words for it in English, like charisma. And say a charismatic leader. What does that mean? It's electric when that person comes onto the stage, or a rock star. A rock star has energy, right? They need to have energy. So when they're on the stage, it's every little sound they're making is vibrating people all the way till the end, who can hear it, and it's giving them joy. It's giving them, they want to jump and scream and shout. And have you ever been to a Michael Jackson concert? You know what I'm talking about. So that's energy. That's uncontrolled, out of control energy, which he had. But a yogi learns how to control that energy, and that's the path of brahmacharya, where we learn how to control our energy, and we use it. We use it wisely. Energy used wisely does work. Energy used unwisely causes destruction. And energy not used at all causes destruction too. A different kind of destruction called decay. Decay is called tamasic, tamas. Destruction is called rajas, and utilization is called sattva. So we try to be sattvic, and we utilize energy. We don't let it destroy us, nor do we have no energy and then we decay, because energy is life force. Without energy, there's no life.
Yeah, I have been thinking more since I've heard you speak about like people are getting drained by blue light, and of course, many people are on their screens and not moving their bodies and trapped inside homes. Of noticing, like, if I really pay attention, even a short amount of time on my phone, I do feel weaker. I feel less vital, and I've been trying to be more conscious of that moment to moment.
Yeah. So you understand what I'm talking about. It kills your vitality. And your vitality is because of energy. But there's certain kinds of energy which is not suited to our physical biology. For example, Wi-Fi or 5G and all of this is not suited. And even in India, it's so sad that our electrical grid is at 50 hertz, which is a half harmonic of our mitochondrial electrical vibration, which is 100 hertz. So it can dampen the energy of the mitochondria. If you would just sit near a lot of electrical equipment, it has an electron smog, an electric smog. And if you're sitting within that electric smog, you can get major problems. That's how my mom got cancer. She sat in the electrical smog of a lot of devices and a 50-inch television that threw blue light off at her for 8 hours a day. And she got cancer in exactly the same spots where the light had fallen. It had metastasized so bad by the time it was detected, and she lived only 3 or 4 days after we found out. It was that bad, that aggressive. Because now there's no explanation. If I ask the doctor why does it happen, they're like, no, it happens to some people. You know, they have this beautiful word called idiosyncratic. Idiosyncratic.
Hmm.
That means we don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it
And
seems. I
we
mean,
look
especially I
knowledgeable.
think.
When I say it's idiosyncratic, we still say we can still look knowledgeable saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it does seem. I mean, I think during the pandemic, it became very clear that so much advice is geared to making more money, right? Like you can't really tell people to be healthy and
Well,
happy.
what are you going to do with all that money, really?
Yeah,
You're all mortal, right? Everybody's mortal. Even the Queen of England died. So, what are you going to do with all that money?
yeah,
You don't need more money than you need for a small mortal life,
yeah.
and maybe to give some to your kids.
For someone just listening, I guess, because there's a lot of information that touches many areas of life, and maybe there's only one area of life at the root of it. But I guess what I'm inspired from this is be more in tune with nature, be outside more, get away from these artificial things. But then what? Or
And
is that when they
then
take
you'll be
away?
surrounded with your teachings, everything that has been taught to you in school about being selfish and being first in class. That comes back.
Hmm.
And you'll be miserable when you're out in nature because you don't have the distractions that are there when you were not in nature to not focus on your misery. So yes, step one is to get out in nature. Step two is to be miserable, to be angry and feel ashamed, and then make change.
Gotcha. Cool. Is there anything else you'd like to share as far as your path? I mean, honestly, I feel like there's other questions I want to ask, but they're almost like some degrees away from me. Well, it was great speaking with you. I have actually been swinging my little mace that I made. It's not really a Gada, but
Oh, you made
it's
one? Wow.
I made a few. Yeah, actually, I actually made like four because I my
You have a
landlord left
lathe?
a bag of
Or you
cement.
made it
Sorry.
by. Did you make it with chisel and hammer, or do you have a lathe?
I don't know what a lathe is. I just took a
It's a rolling thing.
no. I took some wooden poles that I found laying around from
Ah.
I think from a eucalyptus tree and cement that I made a cast and I nailed it to the cement. So
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
different
Okay.
yeah. I have
Yeah,
one
that's a
that's
really heavy gada.
it's that one's
Which,
too heavy for me. The one you saw that's
yeah,
13 kg and it's like it's 2 meters tall. I didn't really
yeah.
think
For
that.
your build and your size, I would recommend starting with something like 3 kilos.
Yeah, I made one that's 2.8. I made one that's
Ah, that's
3.8.
perfect for you.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to be in touch because I'm speaking to Kunal about your program. I'm very
All
interested.
right, great, great.
Cool.
I'll see you there if you're there.
All right. Awesome.
Okay, have a great day. Bye.